So silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Dustin, Brandon, and Jared.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
This is another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. Joined as always to my right-hand side on YouTube if you're watching, Brandon Clements. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. Myself on Twitter and Instagram at KRock Jared. And most importantly, follow the show at Heel to the Face on Twitter and Instagram. A busy week of WWE, AEW wrestling news in general. I would probably say this week we're going to start things out with Chris Jericho's belt has been found. Found as in literally it was found. So news came about that Chris Jericho's new AEW championship belt was stolen. Now, I guess the good question that I want to go with this is, good or bad for AEW, the inaugural champion Chris Jericho having his belt stolen? Somebody brought it to my attention on Twitter that the belt was stolen, and I immediately said, wow, AEW is really going right at it with these real-life storylines.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the stealing part of it. I maybe that's part of maybe to give it more, attention on the belt.
They're going to actually, maybe WWE might not do this, but AEW is probably going to make note of the belt being stolen in storylines.
Oh, of course. I mean that obviously makes sense. I mean, we were reading an article. It was a joking article, but it's an eye catcher. In one sense, I guess. The WWE unveiled an American East-West Championship, and we're totally kidding. That would have been kind of funny. That was a good attention grabber. But regarding this belt, as I called it last week, accurately called it, Chris Jericho wins. I was right, so I want to give myself a little bit of applause there. Chris Jericho winning the championship is best for AEW right now.
Nobody was right about Pac beating Kenny Omega, but speaking of Chris Jericho and the belt, yeah, the rumors were that he was at a Longhorn Steakhouse. I think he brought the belt into the Longhorn Steakhouse, and it was stolen from there, and then when it got, all the publicity, somebody got cold feet and just kind of like dropped it off on the side of the road, and that's kind of how it was just literally found. They never caught anybody who stole the belt or anything like that. It was literally just found.
You don't think this was, set up? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, not to this extent, obviously, with AEW, but UFC really took it to a whole nother level. I mean, a lot of things happened out there with the whole Conor McGregor thing, throwing stuff at a bus. I mean, I don't think it was supposed to happen the way it did. But you don't think, magically things worked out fine. I mean, Conor didn't go to jail, things like that. So to me, in the back of my mind, I think UFC may have pulled a little, a little attention grabber. So I could see AEW doing something like that. Obviously not, anything criminally per se. We don't want to see that happen, of course. But it wouldn't surprise me if AEW, maybe, did this little trick on us to, get more attention. I mean, is
it good attention because of the fact that it is the first champion? It's one thing to add to the storyline, but it looks a little unprofessional that their very first champion, literally the night that he just got the belt, already has it kind of stolen from him, that they can't hold on to the belt, that they have that little amount of importance, I guess, surrounding it. Valued at $30,000. Now, the question is, it's like a baseball card in the year 2019. It might be valued at a lot of money, but it's to whom the buyer is, and obviously, if I stole the belt, it would kind of be like stealing some sort of high drug that I would have no idea how to get rid of for the actual money. If you gave me tons and tons of cocaine, I would be like, yeah, that's awesome. It's worth $100,000. But I personally don't know who could give me the $100,000 for it. Kind of like the belt worth $30,000. Unfortunately, who's going to give you $30,000? Because you kind of have to, if you went into a pawn shop with it, kind of admit that you obviously have the belt and that you're the one that stole it.
Yeah, and it's kind of a one of a kind thing. So like the purpose of stealing it is.
You're not going to get the money out of it because you're admitting that you stole it, essentially, if you got the money out of it.
Yeah, and then pawn shops, once they know it's stolen, they're not going to take it. That's the risk.
Well, obviously, they're going to know it's stolen. You're going to be the one and only person ever to walk into any pawn shop ever with an AEW championship belt because it literally just came into existence on Saturday night.
Speaking of belts going home for good, well, in this case, this wasn't going home for good, but the belt was taken from the property of the company. So WWE, I was watching Straight Up Steve Austin. It's on the USA Network, And he came out and pretty much, during, I forget who he was with. I think it was Sal Vulcano.
Okay.
From Practical Jokers.
Practical Jokers, yes.
Yes. And he was talking. He walked up with the Intercontinental Championship, and said he told Vince, "I'm taking this belt home whether you like it or not." So I didn't know that those belts you had to return. I always thought you took the belts home on a lot of these cases, but I guess the Intercontinental Championship, Stone Cold pretty much cornered Vince, is what he was saying. And
are you talking at that time or currently, as in he's taking it home, as in he has like the current version, like he never relinquished the belt, or taking it home as in at the time that he won the belt? Because yes, I thought at the time that you won the belt, you carried the belt.
Yeah, he took it. I think what he meant was he took it home, and the policy was obviously you hang on to the belt and things like that. And he cornered Vince. From obviously listening to the conversation on the show, and I will say this: it was kind of interesting that Stone Cold said, "Yeah, I pretty much said, Vince, blood, sweat, and tears. I busted my ass for you. I'm taking this home." So I thought that was kind of interesting. Not jumping away from the Chris Jericho situation. I mean, it's good publicity. I think it's fantastic. So overall, I'm whether it was poorly, whether it was really legitimately stolen, quote unquote, or not. I mean, people are talking about it. So obviously that works in AEW's favor, right?
Yeah, AEW, a decent pay-per-view. We were talking about the matches before we went on the air here today. A decent pay-per-view. That Cracker Barrel match seemed to be pretty unique. The ladder match had quite a cool spot with that flip with the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks. I think
was
that might have been
surprised.
the spot of the night.
I thought. I mean, yes, it was definitely a spot of the night. But I was surprised. I thought it'd be the match of the night. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a solid B minus, something along those lines. But it was okay. I mean, it was, like you said, spot of the night. But honestly, the match of the night was the Jimmy Havoc, Joey Janela, and Darby Allin. That was a hell of a match. I think that was the best match of the night. Followed up by a very surprising victory. Pac beats Kenny Omega. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just throw us all off. We didn't see that one coming. But yeah, Pac beats Kenny Omega. Good for Kenny Omega for laying down and doing what's best for business. That's what this whole company revolves around. But speaking of AEW, we all know that their ticket sales are doing well. This upcoming, as of taping the show, Monday and Tuesday, we've been wanting it forever. The return of WWE television to Madison Square Garden. It's weird that, that is their home turf. That is their home stadium. That's their bread and butter. But yet they're even too cheap. That'd be like the New York Yankees being like, we know we're the New York Yankees. We know that we're so popular everywhere that we're going to play at Citi Field because the rent's too high at Yankee Stadium, and we know you'll come out to Citi Field and watch us. But that's strange because that's your stadium. That's your home. You would think you might even get an advantage when it comes to the pay. But they haven't worked Madison Square Garden for a television show in a long time, but they're going to work it this Monday and Tuesday. The problem is the reception, and speaking of your guy you were talking about a minute ago, Stone Cold Steve Austin, hasn't been that great. They're bringing out Stone Cold Steve Austin for Monday Night Raw to try to sell tickets. It's not at stomping ground levels yet, but it looks pretty bad. What do you attribute to the reason why? I mean, I don't think it's storyline. WWE's coming home to Madison Square Garden. What's the problem? Why aren't people jumping on board with this?
I think overall, I think it's because of the overall product. I mean, the storylines have been okay. I don't feel like there's a lot of...
They don't have too many issues when they're at the Barclays Center, though, I guess my issue is.
I don't know. That's, to me, it is kind of interesting, but I mean, my take on it is I feel like the, not only the storylines, but like, the product, I feel like hasn't been up to snuff. I'm kind of surprised of, I mean, it's going to take some time, but I was kind of hoping when you're bringing Heyman and Bischoff that, these guys would, really, put some energy into the product. Honestly, it's very interesting to see how things are going. Speaking of these storylines and characters and things like that, my highlight of WWE programming this week, heel turn for Bayley. That is awesome.
Two heel turns, I guess, if you will, this week in WWE. You had Rowan turning on Daniel Bryan. I guess it's not a heel turn because he was already a heel, I guess. But turning on Daniel Bryan and obviously Roman Reigns. Bayley turning heel as well, joining the alliance with Sasha Banks.
Love it.
Joining back up, I guess, with Sasha Banks. A couple years ago, those were the two biggest faces. Now they're two big heels. I think it's time for a good Bayley heel turn. I think it's time for a change.
Finally.
In the WWE, we need things like that. I think the women's division not necessarily gets stale, but I mean, with only so many players on the roster and so many ways that you can spin certain matches. I mean, this is not like WWE in the men where you have 70, 80 guys to play with if this was a video game.
Legit.
I mean, you have
players.
like 5 to 10 women that if you're, that are featured on pay-per-views outside of the Royal Rumbles and the Mae Young Classics and stuff like that. So yeah, you need to switch things up, and very interesting for Bayley to turn heel this past week on Monday Night Raw. Join up with Sasha Banks. We saw something that fit the WWE narrative when it comes to the King of the Ring tournament. Instead of a pass, I guess, onto the championship round in the King of the Ring, Samoa Joe and Ricochet's double pinfall results in both of them advancing to make their match a triple threat. Who is it? It's going to be Samoa Joe, Ricochet,
and Baron
Corbin in a triple threat match. Normally that would be an advance for Baron Corbin because they did that. I think they did that. We talked about King of the Ring being a pay-per-view tournament in the past. And one of the things they did when they maybe booked too many matches on the card and were running short on time is they'd have one of these double DQs or double countouts to kind of make it so that they didn't have to have another match. Both those guys are eliminated. And Hulk Hogan advances from the first round all the way
gets a bye
to the semifinals. Yeah, gets a bye. I remember, I think the WrestleMania 4 tournament, there was a few of those. In the WrestleMania 4 tournament, there was like a 9-hour pay-per-view. I think it wasn't, but it was like 5 hours. I think WrestleMania 4 was like 5 hours because it featured a 16-man tournament for the championship on top of a tag team championship match, on top of like just some special attraction matches. I think literally there was 18 or 19 matches on the WrestleMania 4 card. But you had stuff like that happen where people were, double disqualified immediately or didn't come to the ring or something silly to just kind of move the tournament along. But in this case, if it's a storyline to have it be a triple threat match, kind of like that better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty good. I think it's definitely unique. That's for sure. And it was funny watching the backstage interaction with Baron Corbin. He's like, "Yeah, I'm getting a bye," and then John Cone, the referee, which by the way, he's getting a little bit more airtime. He's like that referee that's like, he's part of these storylines now. Not a huge way, but it's funny seeing him as a backstage producer / referee, getting on there and making these rule adjustments on the matches. I like it. I do think we're going to see Ricochet in the victor in that. I have to tell you, to move on to the other side of the King of the Ring, the SmackDown side of it, I have to say, I am so stoked for Chad Gable. You know me, I've been a big fan of Chad Gable.
I think he's going to defeat Elias.
I can't wait.
My picks, and I know it's kind of a cop-out here, but I am picking one of two people. I'm picking one guy from Raw and one guy from SmackDown. I think these guys are going to be your champions, and I know it's kind of a cop-out waiting this late in the tournament, even though we did make some predictions early on. But I say it's either going to be King Elias or King Corbin. Those are my picks. I think that they fit. I mean, it just kind of fits. I mean, I feel that a lot of the King of the Ring winners have always been heels, whether it be Edge back in the day, you know what I mean? Or King Owen Hart.
Here's what I'm going to say.
The King of Hearts.
It's either going to be King Ricochet, which, he's gone. He's known as that as well on the social media world. And Chad Gable is perfect. I mean, who saw that coming? I had Andrade going to the finals, honestly.
Yes, I did as well.
I mean, when Chad Gable won, I was rooting for Chad Gable in the sense of, seeing the underdog. I mean, he's getting I think he's getting a little bit more traction. I think WWE's finally figuring out, okay, this guy is a former Olympian. He has a very similar wrestling style to Kurt Angle in his prime. I don't want to go as far as saying he's a Hall of Famer by any means, but his in-ring, technical skills, going off the top rope with a moonsault, things like that, that to me is Kurt Angle-esque. So I'm kind of hoping WWE is actually finally going to, give Chad Gable a push. I still think, it's going to be Ricochet and Gable.
I think it's going to be Ricochet versus Gable for the championship. You don't think Elias? Now,
nope.
I think this is as far as Gable's push is going to go for now. I don't want to, again, bring up the whole Kofi Kingston thing of you can only have so many underdog pushes in a year, but I just feel, and it doesn't really have much to do with Chad Gable. I just feel that Elias, you want to talk about people who need pushes. Elias has needed a push for a long time.
Well, pump the brakes on that. The whole thing with the Kofi Kingston underdog story, I mean, here's the thing. Was he really an underdog? I mean, he was always intercontinental. He was always in the intercontinental U.S. title
underdog. Yes, and the
Chad Gable has only held tag team titles. He's never held a singles title. So to me, he's a true underdog. Kofi Kingston, I get it. He wasn't the Universal Champion or WWE Champion. But I liked it. It was a good storyline, but he wasn't like a super underdog though, because he's been a multi-time Intercontinental U.S. champion. I mean, he's done these
I feel,
things.
too, the times that he's held the U.S. belt and the IC belt were times where those belts were really not taken that serious, meaning if Chad Gable had been around at that time, I don't see why Chad Gable couldn't have been Intercontinental or U.S. champion in a similar sense as Kofi Kingston. I don't remember thinking of Kofi Kingston as a primetime player. If I played a game and there was the top 15 WWE superstars on there in 2011 and Kofi Kingston wasn't on there, I wouldn't be asking, hey, why is Kofi Kingston on this game? Remember back in the day, Super Nintendo games had like 8 WWF stars. You had like Big Boss Man, Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, and then like Demolition, and that was it.
Yeah,
well,
that was it, yeah.
Kofi Kingston is not somebody 5 years ago, 2 years ago, that if you were to give me the top 20 guys on a video game and he was off it, I wouldn't be asking where he was.
Let me just say this. I think the world of Kofi Kingston. I think he's been a company man through and through. I'm glad he got the push, but Chad Gable is more of an underdog. That's just me. I hope Chad Gable wins it all. That's what I'm hoping. Either him or Ricochet, I'll be happy with it. But I do think it's going to be Elias and Corbin, which I'm fine with Elias. I'm over Corbin, you know that. So I mean, Elias.
I don't necessarily
will be okay.
know. I guess my issue is I think it's going to be Elias or Corbin winning it. It's going to be tough though. I don't think it's going to be Elias versus Corbin because that's heel versus heel, and I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm either saying it's going to be Corbin versus Gable, Elias versus Ricochet. Those and I say, and I would probably lean towards more Elias and Ricochet just because that again seems more of a top face, a top heel. I guess Gable versus Corbin. I mean, I don't know how exciting a lot of people. Gable's got kind of the push, but at the same time, I just don't see that as a marquee matchup as Ricochet versus Elias.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean,
and I still don't understand why this can't just be a pay-per-view. I don't understand this whole clash of champions. We're not really seeing a ton of clashing of champions at this upcoming pay-per-view. It's not called Night of Champions anymore because of the fact that every title is pretty much defended in every pay-per-view being 4 hours long, that it's not a unique thing. I don't understand why this pay-per-view just can't be called the King of the Ring and have your semifinal matches on the pay-per-view, your championship match on the pay-per-view, and then all these other matches we're supposed to see Seth Rollins, Braun Strowman teaming up to take on the tag champs. I don't know why we can't call this the King of the Ring pay-per-view. I mean, they obviously value the brand of King of the Ring. I mean, you see when they come out on Raw, this isn't just like the Raw graphic with a small King of the Ring tournament. They literally transform. They bring the throne out. They bring the crown out. When they come out to the ring, they've got the actual King of the Ring graphic. I don't understand why they just don't call that a pay-per-view.
I mean, I don't have the answer to that one. So, I mean, honestly, it's the powers that be.
I understand it's not as high a brand as WrestleMania, but again, this would be literally like, I'm not a huge fan of the Survivor Series myself. We know you're a big fan of that, but I would not be in favor of them turning the November pay-per-view into something else and then just having Survivor Series matches on it. I wouldn't be.
Let's not do that. We're not going that far.
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't be in favor of that. I wouldn't be in favor of it. WWE Super Fast Lane over here, and then there's Survivor Series matches on the card, and they're called Survivor Series matches with the graphic. They even put up this was a Survivor Series match. Well, then just call. Because of the fact that you have the brand. King of the Ring is the brand. I still don't understand why we don't have a Starrcade pay-per-view, why they feel that WWE Tables, Ladders, and Chairs is going to draw more attention than if you called that thing Starrcade. I think, again, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, a lot of these, it's more than just the event. It's the brand. Because of the... Why did 80,000 people buy tickets to MetLife Stadium to watch a pay-per-view where 6 months in advance where they know none of the matches yet? They literally don't know, and we ended up getting Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan in one of the main events. Now, if you'd have told me 6 months in advance that WrestleMania was going to be main evented by Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan, I'd have been like, what? But WWE can do that. They can sell the 80,000 tickets and then they can put Kofi Kingston in the main event. I understand it was a unique circumstance, but even if they put Kofi Kingston in the main event without any push, literally just the Kofi Kingston we were used to, the not main event player, and you put him in the main event, we already bought the tickets. WrestleMania is going to be sold out because it's WrestleMania. The Super Bowl this year is already sold out, and we don't even know if it's going to be a 9-7 team versus a 9-7 team or an 8-8 team versus an 8-8 team. We have no idea, but it's called the Super Bowl, so it's already going to be sold out, and 1 million people are going to watch it regardless of who's going to be in the game down the line because of the fact that it's got that name to it. So call this pay-per-view the King of the Ring, and I'd be a little more excited for it. Put in June, too. I don't know why they decided to just throw the King of the Ring out. all different times of year.
Speaking of pay-per-views, I know you didn't get a chance to watch NXT TakeOver UK, the Cardiff results there. I just wanted to go over a few things. Couple notes. Noam Dar. Remember Noam Dar?
I do, yes.
Yeah, Noam Dar. He looked decent. They call him the Scottish Supernova over there, so he's doing pretty well. One of my favorite highlights was Cesaro and Ilya, I think it's Dragunov. Cesaro made an appearance on Cardiff over for the NXT UK takeover, and it was a great match.
Is Sweden part of the UK?
Sweden
or Switzerland?
Yeah.
Switzerland.
No, it's not part of the. It's separate. It's a separate country. Separate. It's part of the European Union, yes, but it's not. It's separate from the UK, I believe. I think.
I'm just wondering the Cesaro importance there.
I think they were just doing it to bringing a name to maybe bump up things a little bit. I have to say though, Cesaro did the swing I think 30 times on Ilya, so that was pretty good. Two other notes I want to add in. Kaylee Ray defeated Toni Storm. I really like Toni Storm. She has a good look.
Think she's on the rise?
I think she's on the rise. I was very surprised by Kaylee Ray defeating Toni Storm. I thought Toni Storm was going to win the match. It was a great match. They've been friends for years, so they did the whole friends thing, and now they're not friends anymore, kind of deal, like we've seen a million times over. But it was a good match. I do feel Toni Storm maybe losing this match. Maybe she's going to get a promotion. I don't know. I mean, she's young, she's good, she's got the look, she's got the skill. So we'll see what happens there. But the highlight of the night was also the main event of the night. Walter, remember we talked about Walter from Austria. Yes. Very, very good showing. And he defeated Tyler Bate for the WWE UK Championship. That was a great match. I think it went 45 minutes. A great match back and forth. Tyler Bate looked great. He put on the show as well. But overall, Walter ended up winning the match in about 45 minutes. And at the end of the show, you got to see British Strong Style hanging out. Nice little embrace at the end. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with guys like Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, and Trent Seven. Those guys are obviously British Strong Style, but they're really good competitors. But we'll see what happens with them.
I don't see this like a takeover in the tradition of like, I feel that somebody's going to make some sort of debut on Monday Night Raw. I feel those guys are going to stay there for a little bit longer.
Well, I would say if they're going to get a promotion, I think they go up to the, from the, maybe like the single A to double A to the NXT side of things, because I think NXT UK is...
Well, again, NXT's moving over to the USA Network. They need some names.
They need some names. Tyler Bates a big name. Pete Dunne's a big name. So, I mean, we'll see. Overall, I just, final thoughts. I thought it was a great show. The crowd was really into it. I got to tell you, the British fans, they always come out and they do a great job. The chants were great. The energy was great. So overall, I enjoyed the show. I'd give it a solid B. It was a really good show.
Kind of fun fact, you're talking about British wrestling fans over here. I did not know this. I was made aware of this over the weekend, that Impact Wrestling, as much as it's had a huge impact, pardon the pun, on the wrestling landscape, especially years ago when it had the video game, it had the magazine, pay-per-view buys. One thing I never knew is they only drew over 10,000 people once. I thought they drew over 10,000 people a few times. I thought, a few of those earlier Bound for Glories when they started to travel and they had main events like Jeff Hardy versus Kurt Angle and AJ Styles versus Sting and that whole 9 yards. I don't know if those were all matches, but they were all there one time and fought each other. But I found out they only drew more than 10,000 people one time. It was at a tour overseas in England. And at an event they had in England, they drew over 10,000 people. But no U.S. show has ever drawn more than 10,000 people, which, again, I thought, they at least did once, because look at AEW. They've already done it a few times, and they haven't been around for more than a year. But I thought Impact Wrestling had a few chances on where they drew 10,000. That's not saying a lot. That's not 20,000. I could definitely believe that, but 10,000, I thought at least one of those Bound for Glories at the Plymouth Civic Center outside of Detroit, Michigan, was a full house. But apparently not. None of those events were.
I will say this, though. the British fans, they are diehards. I think, a lot of people don't talk about that.
Yeah, they never have any issues about them selling Raw and SmackDown tickets for when WWE comes over.
No, and the best part is, too, those British crowds are awesome. When you have them on Raw and SmackDown,
they're like the night after WrestleMania crowds.
Oh, it's great. It's fun because you get a great bunch of diehard wrestling fans. So, I mean, hats off to the British fans, not only for this takeover that we just saw, but overall, I mean, tip of the cap. You guys are fun.
So NXT. Speaking of NXT, they're less than 2 weeks away from making their USA Network debut. We already have our first match named for the event. It'll be a championship match, the North American Championship. Velveteen Dream will defend against Roderick Strong. If you haven't watched NXT, I don't know if this airs next week, but to kind of hype up the match, Roderick Strong set fire to Velveteen Dream's couch. It was on the entranceway. It wasn't in his house or anything like that. But he set fire to his couch, and it's going to be for the North American Championship on their debut show in less than 2 weeks on the USA Network. Velveteen Dream versus Roderick Strong. See what it's like. NXT 2 hours long. It's going to be here before you know it. I am actually kind of one of those cable cutters, and I'm starting to think with AEW. I know there's other avenues, but with AEW, NXT moving to the USA Network, I might have to just get back into finding a way to get some of these channels again, because I do not have TNT.
I gotta ask you though, does this mean that NXT is completely off WWE Network? Like completely?
I would assume that maybe the replays will be on WWE Network or at least on Hulu, because I know that with Raw and SmackDown the replays are on Hulu. So I'd assume that they're probably on Hulu, and the replay is not necessarily immediately available, but like Raw and SmackDown replays, maybe 2-3 weeks later, because Raw and SmackDown is on the WWE Network from 2-3 weeks ago. I could probably pull up maybe the one right after SummerSlam now. So it's on like a 3-week delay.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a delay.
So I'd probably say similar.
I would say this. I mean, in the present, when you have this cord cutting thing, you can find a lot of great streaming services like Hulu, Sling TV, PlayStation View, YouTube TV. There's a lot of these platforms out there. You can probably find it for a reasonable price. So, I guess
my thing is we've always with NXT, you talk about being able to watch it weeks down the road. That's why I'm not a big NXT fan now. It's the reverse. It's not watching it weeks down the road. It's that the results are delayed. So the only way I'd really get excited about NXT now, if I'm watching it, let's say 3 weeks down the road, then I'd be kind of watching it now. If I didn't really care about the live aspect, I'd probably be watching more NXT now.
Here's what I want to, I want to, kind of cap off the episode with. So with NXT, I don't even know this yet, but with NXT moving to USA and maybe, they're not airing it, maybe live or simulcast, maybe they're airing it later on WWE Network. Does that affect the value of WWE Network for people? I mean, or is it people are like, you know what, I already watched it for $9.99 for the pay-per-views. It's good enough for me.
I'll tell you what, I don't think it affects the value. And there's always been the rumors that WWE Network was going to go up to a $14.99. I still see them. I don't know the truth behind all of them, that there's going to be a $14.99 service available for WWE soon that's going to feature more indie wrestling and more of the other companies in which they only more Evolve shows, etc. Yep. And then the $9.99 is going to stay similar to what it is now, and that they're actually going to even have a $4.99 that will not have, I don't think, it won't have the live pay-per-views.
It wouldn't have pay-per-view.
It wouldn't have the pay-per-views. It'll have, more like just a video library of certain content. But the $9.99 will be similar, and then the $14.99 will have more. Now, I'm under the camp of, and I've been under this the whole time, is it's just a great price for pay-per-views. I watch a lot of it when it was brand new, but there's only so many times you can watch SummerSlam 1992 over and over again. It's mostly a pay-per-view avenue for me. I'll pick it up for the NXT takeovers, obviously. They got some good shows, but if they drop the pay-per-views, then they would drop me. If I don't care what the price is. If it was $4.99 but without the pay-per-views, I'm not interested. If it's $14.99, if they said the $9.99 doesn't have the pay-per-view, I'm moving up to the $14.99. It's really 100% pay-per-view driven for me.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you on that. I do like the fact that NXT is on there as well, but at the end of the day,
are the NXT takeover? Well, obviously the NXT takeovers are going to stay on there. Yeah, but I wonder with a live television product, are you going to maybe start to see more pay-per-views? Or are they going to kind of keep them similar?
I don't know. It's going to be curious to see what happens. I mean, I think we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, I haven't seen anything announced, so I mean, it's going to be interesting. We'll see. I mean, that's the best thing I can say at this point. We'll have to kind of wait and see, and we'll kind of go from there. But yeah, again, I mean, for me personally, as long as the pay-per-views are on there, I'm going to pay for it. But I always wonder, because I know there's a diehard NXT audience where, NXT is what they're in for. So I'm kind of curious to see how that would affect things. But I do want to say this.
Do you think there's actually people out there who buy just for NXT who?
I wouldn't be surprised, because
is it that big of an audience?
I don't think it's a huge part of the audience, but I think it's enough.
Well, here's the thing though. They're still going to have if they still have NXT takeovers. Even if you're an NXT fan, you have the pay-per-views. So there you go. You still need it for the pay-per-view events.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see how it all plays out. I'm excited. I mean, NXT is going to be starting on September 18th. So we got, about 2 weeks out. And then, a couple weeks after that, we got AEW on TNT. So it's for cord cutters like yourself. You can find a great streaming service. Just Google it. Just Google best streaming services. You can find the channel lineups. I've been a cord cutter for years. I've used different services. I won't name which ones, but I've used, if you name it, I've probably had it, tried it out, at least see how it is. You'll find something on the cheap. It's got what you need, and go from there.
Well, the Wednesday Night Wars are going to heat up pretty soon. AEW, obviously, down the horizon. NXT showing up on the USA Network. Next week, we're going to get ready for Clash of Champions from Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll go down the whole card. Obviously, give our more official King of the Ring predictions, as that'll be part of the show as well. Braun Strowman, Seth Rollins teaming up to take on the tag champs, then facing each other for the Universal Championship. Will Braun Strowman, I keep saying Baron Corbin. Will Braun Strowman face AJ Styles again? Will he do double duty or triple duty, I guess is the way to put it? We'll talk more Clash of Champions. We'll even get into more, I wanted to get into this, but we'll save for next week, more Firefly Funhouse. What's next in store for Bray Wyatt? Teaming back up with Rowan.
Bray's definitely getting a push, for sure.
Is Rowan rejoining the house? We'll talk more about that next week. This has been the Heel to Face podcast. As always, Brandon the Icebreaker Clements. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. Myself at KRock Jarrett on Twitter and Instagram, and the program on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face. Clash of Champions next week. We'll recap it all, including Raw and SmackDown. Till then.